So what is this all about? What this is all about is equations. And when we're given an equation, a linear equation, like 4x plus 2 equals 14, I'll tell you what you should not do. You will not be a very good detective if you say to yourself, let me think. 4 times what number? And then add 2 is equal to 14. Oh, I know what. It's 3 because 4 times 3 is 12 and 2 more is 14. So yeah, that approach works for the easy ones. But what about when you get the tough equations? Say something like this. And I got news for everybody. We're not in Kansas anymore. We're not going to get too many of these easy ones. We'll get some in the beginning to give you a sense of strategy and how you go about doing these things. But we want you able to solve something as ugly as this. Wouldn't necessarily get something this bad. But we want you to have a strategy that will allow you to succeed. And I guarantee that you will get that strategy. Okay. For this, like a detective, you need that strategy. You need a process. Just like the detectives wound up finding Dr. McDonald, and they said, okay, they found all of his little lies and all of his little inconsistencies. And then the detectives, they go back to the scene of the crime. And they start processing everything by trying to, if you will, this is a popular term, reverse engineer the crime. And to figure out, well, who had means, motive, and opportunity? Who was the one that could have done it? And they figured out that it had to be Jeffrey McDonald. They brought him to trial, this time not in a civil court, not in a military court, but in a criminal court. And it wasn't considered double jeopardy because the first one was a military trial, not a criminal trial. And when they did the criminal trial, they found him guilty. And he has spent the rest of his life, I think he's still alive, he may have passed, in jail because of what he did. So what we're really looking for here is for you guys to be a detective, like Detective Columbo. All right. So again, we can get really fancy and technical with this, and we can say, look, the addition property of equality says if A equals B, then A plus C equals B plus C. All it means is this. When two things are equal, if you add the same exact amount of stuff, you get it the same. They're still equal. So, to put it in layman's terms, let's say that you have two twin brothers. They weigh exactly the same amount. Let's just say 150 pounds. And they both eat exactly 5 chocolate chip cookies. And they step on the scale. Guess what? They're still going to weigh the same exact amount because they started the same and they added the same. So when you have two things that are equal, like A and B, and you add the same thing to both sides, like C, you get that they are going to be equal. Now, how does that help you? Well, if you get an equation like x minus 9 equals 12, if you add 9 to both sides, then the minus 9 and the plus 9, they cancel each other out, leaving only the x on the left-hand side. And on the other side, you get 12 plus 9 is 21. And that is an important step in the process. Let me try to explain it in a way that works a little better. 3 equations on the screen in front of you right now. 5x minus 4 equals 36 is the first one. So I'm a detective. I'm Detective Columbo or Detective Lindquist, and I walk into a crime scene, and I want to know who's the only number who could have done this crime. What's the one and the only one? Well, in order to figure out who the perp is, I need to get that x all by itself. Now, how do I get the x by itself? I get the x by itself by undoing or doing the inverse opposite operation. So this says minus 4. I'm going to do the opposite, and I'm going to do plus 4. Not only do I do inverse operations, I also invert or reverse the order of operations. So the first thing it says there is minus, so I'm going to do the opposite and do plus. So I add 4 to both sides, and I get 5x is equal to 40. Now, how do I know that? I know that because this minus 4 and plus 4, I specifically chose the opposite so that these would cancel each other out. Or, as Mr. Brace taught me when I was in school, I don't know how politically correct this is, but when I was in school, we were taught to go die-die. Whether you do die-die or cancel each other out or Sasquatch got it or aliens abducted it. I don't care how you think of it, but the bottom line is that this minus 4 and plus 4 will wipe each other out. They're gone. And on the other side, they don't wipe each other out because I got to do 36 plus 4. That's 40. And now I've simplified this equation to something simpler that looks like 5x equals 40. Well, now what does 5x mean? Well, we just spent a lot of time studying that no symbol between a number and a variable, 5x, means 5 times x. So I need to do the opposite of multiply, which is to divide. And as soon as I do that division by 5, on the left-hand side, all I get left is an x, and on the right-hand side, all I have is an 8. You see, an equation is like a scale. Not the kind of scale that you step on that lies to you and tells you a weight that you know you can't be. No, not that kind of scale. A balanced scale. The kind of scale that you used when you were in high school. Okay, so you step on that scale, and as long as you don't step on the scale, you put stuff on the scale, and as long as it stays level or balanced, you know that they're equal. Well, that's what I'm doing here. I'm adding 4 to both sides. That's the same thing to both sides. It says level and balanced. Then I do the inverse of multiply by 5, so I divide by 5. Notice on one side of the scale, we have an x left. On the other side of the scale, we have an 8 left. So I know that 8 has got to be equal to x. You try the next one on your own, stop and start, and then I'll give you the answer. Okay, so the inverse of minus 3, or the opposite of undo of, subtract 3 is add 3. So I do that to both sides, the negative 3 and the positive 3, right up here. They go die-die, they disappear. I'm only left with a negative 9. Oh, gee, I started with an n. I changed it to an x. Sorry about that. I'm left with a negative 9 times the variable, let's call it an x, is equal to 18. Now, if the x is being multiplied by negative 9, I need to do the opposite of multiply by negative 9, which is to divide by negative 9. And I always, anything unclear about that, always do it to both sides. And that leaves me with x is equal to negative 2, because negative 9 divided by negative 9 is 1. That leaves me with 1x. And on the other side, 18 divided by negative 9 is negative 2. Getting some of that Columbo action going in, where the detective's solving these mathematical crimes. Oh, let me go backwards a shot here. Put that away. All right, go solve. Stop and start. All right, so I gave you that little peek in advance I didn't mean to do. The opposite of plus 3 is minus 3, so I subtract 3 from both sides. Sure, a calculator can be handy for a lot of people. Plus 3 minus 3, die-die, aliens abducted them, Sasquatch, whatever you want to think of. Little old lady canceled them out. Negative 2 and negative 3, they add up to negative 5. So on the left side, now I have d over 4 equals negative 5. What operation is that d over 4? ¿Qué es una operación? What operation? What's happening to that d when it's over 4? Well, that's division, remember, quotient? So the d is being divided by 4, so I need to do the opposite and multiply by 4, which I do right here. The 4s go die-die because 4 divided by 4 is just 1. And here I go with the x again, leaving the variable, x or d, whatever you have on your paper, is equal to, and then on the other side, since I had to multiply that side by 4 too, always doing this to both sides to keep that scale balanced, negative 5 times 4 is negative 20. All right, so these are your basic two-step equations, very fundamental. If you don't fully understand it, I strongly suggest you go back and watch this video over again. But this is a really good start on understanding how to do stuff. Please do them with the process. Do not say to yourself, 5 times what number take away 4 is 36. That's a horrible way to do these things. You're done for. You'll never get through the course. Do what I said before. What's happening to the variable? Start with the plus or the minus. It says minus 4, you do plus 4. It says minus 3, you do plus 3. It says plus 3, you do minus 3. Always do the opposite. Then you'll get down to a step that has multiply or divide. If it's multiply, you divide. If it's divide, like in the last one, d over 4, you multiply. Do the same thing to both sides. Check your math as you go along. At the end, you'll have a letter on one side. You'll have a number on the other. That number is your answer.